This is the continuation, Mouse 1, Chapter 4, Part 2. If you remember, restrictions are just getting tighter and tighter. They executed and left up as a warning some of those that were dealing goods without coupons. And of course, this really affects Vladik, and I'm a big fan of this picture, or this panel on 84, the very first one. Excellent one to choose. Of course, you can choose some of the ones I've talked about. Those are all fair game, but I want you to be able to put it in your own words. Again, tell us the page and the panel number for the week 3 assignment, the forum post. It's all spelled out for you. Make sure it's turned in by, Friday? 11:59. That's 5/1. That's when it is due. But if you were doing this one, you would say, on page 84, panel 1. This is what's going on, and you kind of summarize what's going on. But then you talk about all the way in which the story is told beyond just the words. I mean, look at the body language. Why are some characters black or shadowed and some aren't? What about the directions they're facing? What about the Star of David on the wall? What about the way it is drawn with these haunting images? Why are they placed above their heads? Why is he shrugged over the table? All of that helps tell the story, and I want you to read it and tell me what you think it means. It doesn't have to be this panel, but this is an example of one, and plus I've given you numerous examples as we go of other ways of reading the panels. Continuing on. So he was very nervous, and he says, I started to trade gold and jewelry. Obviously, it's risky business to trade without coupons. We saw what happened to Noam Cohen. It was easier to hide than clothing. And I kept things like the jewelry and the gold hidden in the child's stroller, and I made a few zlotys. For a while, I had also a food business that I didn't tell you about. I met Strozaki. He had a big grocery store in Modroskova. You're Zygelberg's son-in-law, right? Come inside and wait for the rain to stop. So together we sat and spoke, and he helped from me time to time. He helped a customer from time to time. Sorry you don't have enough coupons to buy half a kilo of sugar. Still, she went out with half a kilo, so I smelled I could arrange something. Then a little more we spoke, and he made to me a proposition. Maybe you could sell my extra items to small shops in the area, under the counter. It was dangerous to carry these things, but maybe I'd be lucky. When someone is hungry, he looks for business. One time I had 10 or 15 kilos of sugar to deliver. Halt, Jew! What are you carrying? What was I supposed to say? For this I could really hang. Sugar? I'm taking it over to my grocery store. Oh, you have a shop? I made so they would think it was legal. I went to the back door where I had to deliver. Open up, Baltic. I've got our sugar. Huh? And they left me to let me go without even checking my papers. Again, his ingenuity survives him many a time. His ability to adapt, to learn, his education, shouldn't say his education, he picked up a lot of this on his own, not formally in school, but the learning of languages, the shoe repair that he's going to learn soon. He picks up all of this and learns fast and applies it to his life, and it keeps him alive. But when we came to Stara Sosnowiec, that's the formation of one of the first ghettos, all my business became harder. It was not so easy to move around. The tin shop finished. The owner was the only Jew left to work there. I got then a job in a German carpentry shop. Father-in-law and Lolik worked already there, for really no money. I didn't need this before, but now I had to have the work paper. Wolf could have arranged me a job at the Gemeinde, but I didn't want to put my hands where the Jews were being taken. We talked about that. These Jewish councils. We're going to see more of them, but what an insane position they put these people in. Some of them did try to better themselves, but really, it's this bargaining, this insane math. Okay, if I give these Nazis just a few old people, maybe they'll spare the young. I mean, how many times can you make that bargain with yourself before it weighs on your soul? Continuing on. And then it came again, something new from the Germans. We got to notice. All Jews over 70 years old will be transported to the Theresistraten in Czechoslovakia on May 10th, 1942. A community better prepared to take care of the elderly than ours in Sosnowiec. Oh, it doesn't look so bad. It's like a convalescent home, is one of your terms. Convalescent, to rest and recover. Anya's grandparents had about 90 years. We've been together, a family, for 70 years. We don't want to break apart now. Don't worry. We won't let them take you. We didn't know yet of Auschwitz, of the ovens, but anyway, we were very afraid. Now, we know from history they didn't go to a convalescent home. They went right away to the ovens, but why? Why in panel 6 on page 86, why have this newspaper that shows these elderly people being cared for? Why put yourself through the trouble of passing this out? Why not just say, show up here, do this? Why have the picture of what it looks like this nice home with people being taken care of? Why? So they would go more willingly. We see this again and again. Again, if the Nazis were making buttons, they would have been the most efficient button-making factory in the world. They were not in the business of making buttons. They were in the business of murder. And business was good for the Nazis. So first of all, they tried to hide. We didn't know yet of Auschwitz, of the ovens, but anyway, we were afraid. So in the yard, we made a hiding place, a bunker. Now, this is one of many bunkers that we're going to see. Here's one of the first. And it's a storage shed, there's a false wall, and they would hide behind the fake wall. We sneaked food to them, and when it was safe, we took them out a little. Several times they came, the Jewish police, to our house. Our records show that Mr. and Mrs. Camino live here. They haven't registered for transfer. Yes, my wife's parents, they left without a word a month ago. Jewish police? Yeah, with big sticks. Again, notice all the panels here that are in the present. How do we tell? The borderless panel, right? It's a clear line of demarcation between past and present so we don't get panel confusion. We don't get confused. But he says, Art says, what do you mean, Jewish police? Yeah, some Jews thought in this way, if they gave to the Germans just a few Jews, they could save the rest, and at least they could maybe save themselves. And after a month, they again came to father-in-law, Mr. Zeigelbert. You and your wife must come with us. If the Caminos don't turn up in 3 days, you too will be sent in their place. Look at the shock, right? The lines of motion really over his head, as though his head is being thrust back because it's so shocking. He had still a little protection from the Gemeinde, the Jewish council, so they took him and not his wife. He sat for a few days and then he sent us a note. He wrote that we had to give over the grandparents. Even if they took only him away now, they next would grab his wife and the rest of the family. So what happened? What happened? We had to deliver them. They thought it was to Theron Stratton they were going. Let us know if you need anything. Again, they thought they were going here. But they went right away to Auschwitz, right away to the gas. When did you first hear about Auschwitz? Oh, right away we heard. Even from there, from that other world, people came back to tell us, but we didn't believe. Then this news, same news came more and more, and so we believed. Later, we saw even worse. After what happened to the grandparents, it was only a few months of quiet, and then posters everywhere, and speeches from the Gemeinde. Fellow Jews, on Wednesday, August 12th, every one of you, young, old, male, female, healthy, and sick, must register at the Dienst Stadium. Oh no, what now? No, there's no cause for alarm. It's only a matter of inspecting your documents and stamping them. This will protect you as citizens of the region. Again, all this stuff they do just to get them to show up so they can get them to do what they want. I'm not going, it's a Nazi trap, they said. Everybody was worried. And our Jewish committee is helping those murderers. God knows what will happen to us at the stadium. Well, they just inspected Jewish documents in some nearby towns. It was no big deal. Anyway, we've got to go. Without our legal papers, we're lost. To go was no good, but not to go was also no good. My father-in-law was 62, came by streetcar from Dobrova, the village next door. Here's a cookie, Rishu, and Fila baked it for you. Say thank you to Grandpa. After my mother died with cancer, he lived there in the house with my sister, Fila, and her 4 small children. So that's Vladik's sister, Vladik's father, and Vladik's nieces and nephews. So this is Vladik's father coming to ask advice. I need your help, Vladik. Should I go to the stadium on Wednesday, or should I hide at home? Oh, Dad, I don't know. I'm not even sure what we're going to do. Anya's mother said she isn't going. She's afraid. She's sick. At least Anya's father. Volek and I, we all work at the German wood shop. We're a little safer, but you don't work. You don't have papers. You have nothing. Well, our cousin Mordecai says he'll be at one of the inspection tables. I could bring my papers to him. What does Fila say? She's not sure, but if Fila decides to go, of course I go with her. Can I have another cookie, Grandpa? Oh, Rishu. Really, I didn't know how to advise. But finally, he did go. People were afraid not to show up, so it came to the stadium almost all the Jews of Sosnowiec and from other villages near. Maybe 25 or 30,000 people. Everyone came very nice dressed. They tried so that they would look young and able to work in order to get a good stamp on their passport. When we were everybody inside, Gestapo with machine guns surrounded us. They did this too, and stepping away from the text, and Auschwitz, when they would do selections, they would prick their fingers and rub the blood into their cheeks to make it look as though they were still full of life, still young, still healthy. Because that was often how they were making decisions. If you were, quote, healthy enough to work and be a slave, they kept you alive. And if you didn't look like you were, to the gas chamber. Continuing on. When we were everybody inside, Gestapo with machine guns surrounded the stadium. Line up my family at the tables to register, quickly! This was the selection when people sent either to the left or to the right. Old people, families with lots of kids, people with no work cards. They all go left. We understood this must be very bad. And Anya came to the table where my cousin was sitting. Ah, you work at the carpentry shop. Go to the right. So we got stamped our passports and came quick to the good side of the stadium. Then they sent to the left. They didn't get any stamp. We were so happy we came through, but we were worried now. What about our families? Were they safe? Look, there's Papa and Lolik and Lonia. We saw Wolf, Tosha. Our family seems to be okay, but then Vladek says, "Did you see my father?" I couldn't see him anywhere. But later, someone who saw him told me. He came through the same cousin over to the good side, Spiegelman to the right. But then came Fila. This is this man's daughter. This is Vladek's dad, his sister, and Vladek's nieces and nephews, or, his grandchildren. So he goes to the good side. The daughter and all her kids don't. Her, Fila, they sent to the left. 4 children was too many. And look, he notices, Fila, my daughter, how can she manage alone with 4 children to take care of? And what do you think? He sneaked to the bad side. And those on the bad side never came home anymore. Those with the stamp were left to go home, but there were very few Jews left in Sosnowiec. 1 from 3 they kept at the stadium, maybe 10,000 people left, and with them that were taken, my father. Well, that's enough for today. Now, I want you to understand this. He went to the good side. Talk about what it means to be a moral person in an immoral world. Can you do it? It's easy to say we are moral now, but how many of you, when someone's not looking, do you do the right thing? Or because no one's looking, is it okay? Is it okay to cheat on something? Is it okay to steal a little something if no one's looking? How many of us do that? That's in today's world. How many of us, then, when there is immorality all around you, would you still do the right thing? This man, talk about sacrifice and being a moral person in an immoral world. He went to the good side, but he sneaks over barbed wire fence to go to the side they know is going to perish. Why? To give his grandchildren a few more moments of levity, to give his daughter some aid, to be with them when she is scared and when they are perhaps going to their deathbed, or those terrible train car rides they took to Auschwitz, so he could be there with her, to die with her. It almost makes me want to cry. It is such a remarkable act of love and being a moral person in an immoral world. Continuing. Oh, I overdid it a little. I feel dizzy. Maybe you should lay down a while. Are you finished? Uh-huh. My father's worn out. He's taking a nap. He was just telling me about the time when everyone in Sosnowiec had to get their paper stamped. Oh, in the stadium? Yeah, they got my mother then. She was taken with everybody else who was going to be deported to 4 apartment houses that were emptied to make a sort of a prison. They put thousands of people there. It was so crowded, there were some of them actually suffocated. No food, no toilets. It was terrible. People jumped out of the windows to end their misery a little quicker. Stepping away from the text, I don't know if you remember, I'm sure not. You have seen footage, but 9/11. When the planes hit and the floors above, there's a burning inferno below, and to escape the flames, people jumped. And here, too, they were so jam-packed into this tiny little prison, basically, that people were dying, people were suffocated, people jumped. I mean, it was just inhumane. But my mother survived. This is Mala's mom. Her brother was on the Jewish committee, the Jewish council we've been talking about, and he hid her in a coal cellar till all the transport left. Then she got me a job scrubbing the people's filth, the vomit, the excrement out of several apartments, and I managed to smuggle her out. Eventually she and my father both ended up in Auschwitz. They died there. Were you going? You didn't drink your coffee. Oh, I just thought of something. My father mentioned that Enya used to keep diaries. I vaguely remember seeing them on the shelves in the den. Oh, I doubt it. I would have noticed them. Well, there's so much junk in there, it's worth a shot. I mean, look at all this stuff. Old menus he picked up on cruises, a pile of stationery from the Pines Hotel. Incredible! 4 1965-day dry dock savings bank calendars. I bet he never even had an account there. Oh, he drives me crazy. He won't even let me throw out the plastic pitcher he took from his hospital room last year. He's more attached to things than people. I really don't know how much longer I can take it. I don't. Yeah, I better get going home. I'll look for those diaries next time. Wait! Put everything back exactly like it was, or I'll never hear the end of it. Okay. Before we wrap up, he's more attached to things than people. Why might that be? Coming out of the Holocaust, and if your family died, your family, those that were put on this earth to protect you, if they couldn't, but perhaps a pen or a crust of bread or a piece of paper or something you could trade, those things could easily mean life to you. People were taken and stolen from his life. People couldn't assist him, but things could. What? Talk about the mental torment, but just to stamp that into somebody, to see so much death, to be able to not count on people, but to count on things. And you can see why he became this way, or you certainly will be able to see once he goes into Auschwitz. All right, so that was chapter 4, part 2. Now, there are 6 chapters in Maus 1. There's only 5 in Maus 2. So, that is it for chapter 4, Maus, part